just seeing everybody.
Well, I love New York City, so who doesn't? I mean, it's always great to be in New York. It's a fun city, tons of things to do. You know, it's a destination. That's where we like to do fights. We like to do fights in places that are destinations.
Why was it important for you to have the press conference here?
Well, you know, when you look at media capitals of the United States, you got to look at LA and New York, you know? So there's no way that you're going to do a world tour and not hit New York City, whether you're there or not.
You touched on
even though we don't do fights here, we have tons of fans in the state of New York.
Well,
so.
You can tell by the people that showed up today.
Right.
But you touched on the fact that you can't fight here. What do you think is going to take for that law to get passed so that you guys can fight in New York?
Well, I mean, it's pretty clear and very obvious. It's blatantly obvious. It's all being held up by the most powerful man in New York politics. There's nobody in New York politics that's more powerful than Shelley Silver. And he's the guy that's keeping it out of New York because of his union ties.
Have you met with him personally?
I have not, but our people have.
Would you like to sit down and talk with him and try to iron it out?
Probably not, no. I don't think Shelley and I would have very good conversations. I think the guys that are talking to him right now are the guys that should be talking to him.
Talk about the card that's going to take place that night in November.
In November?
Yeah. Well,
the GSP fight?
Right.
Yeah. You know, right now, the only fight we have made is the main event, and we'll build a card underneath it as we get closer. But, yeah, I'm excited for it. I think that fight is like the Anderson Silva-Weidman fight, where a lot of people believe that Weidman could win. A lot of people believe that, you know, Hendricks can win, too.
Dan, looking towards the future schedule, what's the most anticipated fight on the schedule right now?
That's my point. Like right now, this Saturday, the Korean Zombie fights Aldo for the title. You know, then after that fight is Ben Henderson and Pettis fight. Then you got Jones and Gustafsson. Then in October, you got the trilogy with Cain Velasquez and Junior Dos Santos. Then in November, you got Johnny Hendricks and George St-Pierre. Then you end the year with Weidman, Anderson Silva, Miesha Tate, and Ronda Rousey. So, I mean, the rest of this year is just badass fights.
Did you ever expect UFC to take off like it has?
Yeah, that's why we bought it. I mean, we believe that it had the potential to do this. Is the timing going to be right? Is everything going to work out in your favor? And is it going to work? That you never know, but we believe that this thing had the potential to be big.
Talk about the relationship with Fox, how important that is for the brand.
The Fox relationship has been huge. These guys are just as committed to building the sport and the brand as we are, which is refreshing when you're working with television.
Will you build the GSP fight, the card? Is that the 20th anniversary show, or is the December card because it's more stacked the 20th anniversary show, or is there no 20th anniversary show?
The November card would be, yeah. That's our actual anniversary.
Do you have any plans, any ceremonial plans? Are you going to do anything special for that?
Yeah, we are, but we haven't put it together yet. You know, we're everything, not only for us at the UFC, but everything at Fox right now is focused on Fox Sports 1. It's all we're thinking about right now. It's Fox Sports 1.
Are you superstitious?
No.
Does it freak you out at all with the injuries and everything to have these huge fights here? It's this massive tease. It's very exciting for people to see these guys, and then we know what happens with.
Yeah, I mean, it's not being superstitious. It's being a realist. I mean, this is a contact sport. These guys train hard. Anything is possible. Anything could happen. But still, you know, this tour that we're on right now, it wasn't cheap. You know, this thing isn't cheap. It's expensive, and we believed in it. We did it. You know, will one of these fights fall out? I hope not. But if you're a realist, you'd have to say, yeah, probably one of them will.
How much does it cost to do something like this?
A couple bucks. Yeah, a few $100,000.
With Aldo teasing about lightweight, how confident are you that he will likely stay at featherweight and defend it after this fight?
That what?
Aldo?
Yeah.
He has been teasing about wanting to go to lightweight. He's kind of softened his stance somewhat, but how confident are you that he's likely to stay at featherweight and defend his title?
I have no clue whatsoever. He hasn't said a word to me about moving anywhere, doing anything. You know, there's a lot of dangerous dudes at 55. You know what I mean? 45, there's some tough guys. 55, straight killers.
Has Aldo been champion long enough to where if he lost, you get an automatic rematch like Anderson, or no?
You know, you can't say something like that. You gotta see how the fight plays out. You know what I mean? It's just tough. You know, it's tough. You gotta see the fight. The way Anderson lost the fight is what makes the next fight so interesting.
But you said before Anderson even fought that if
yeah.
and when he loses.
Well, the guy never lost. He's never lost a fight
lost.
ever.
Aldo's never.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, it's just a question that I couldn't answer right now. The fight would have to happen, and then
How would you get around the Machida situation if he wins? Because he's been promised 2 title shots. What would you?
That's the Machida situation?
He's been promised 2 title shots. If he wins on Saturday, how do you deny him another title shot?
Well, Jones is fighting Gustafsson, and then I don't know. We'll go from there. The problem with the Machida thing is that Jones wants to fight new guys. Jones wants to, he beat him. He choked him unconscious. That's some of the problems you're running with these champions that have gone on these long spells. He's up here talking about, he wants to fight Cormier. He wants to fight Glover Teixeira. He wants to fight new guys. I mean, if the Machida thing, we'll see what happens.
You also mentioned Klitschko. Would you be interested in that?
Oh my! I don't know what the hell he's thinking about that one. When MMA guys start getting too cocky about their boxing, that's where it gets a little weird.
I gotta,
2 totally different sports. I'll do it in MMA.
what about?
I respect boxing.
What about the Cormier situation? He's talking about winning this fight against Nelson, looking impressive, but when he comes down to 205, he wants an immediate title shot. What is your response to that?
Let's see what happens when he moves down to 205.
You wouldn't necessarily be against it.
No, I mean, all these things are just hypothetical. He's still got to fight. He's fighting Roy Nelson first, and then Roy Nelson is no slouch. That's a tough fight. He's got to fight Roy first, and then
And then he's moving to 205.
So he says. Then you got to make 205. It's one thing to say I'm going to move to 205. It's another thing to make 205. So it's not even worth talking about until it happens.
Dana, you mentioned that bringing UFC to New York State would pour about $23 million into the area. How exactly is that going to manifest, and whose numbers are those?
What was the end of the question?
Like, whose numbers are those, and how exactly is the $23 million going to manifest? Where in employment?
Yeah. So there's companies that go out there and do these studies on the economic impact, and they take it from cities we've been to and things we've done already, and then it's everything. It's from the difference between, let's say you do a concert, and let's say we go up to Buffalo or Rochester or one of these things. You bring a concert in, right? Everybody from that local area would buy tickets that are fans of that band. When you do a UFC event, people come in from all over the world, other parts of the country, all over the world, and they stay in hotels, they eat in restaurants, they shop at the malls, they go to the clubs, and they buy tickets, and that's where we're going. And then people do get employed when the UFC rolls into town. People work on, from production to many other things. I mean, if you've ever seen a live UFC event and how big it is and how many people actually work on it, it's pretty crazy. So that number comes from all the different variables of money that would be spent in the city at that time.
And the UFC has such money muscle behind it. Why can't it use that in Washington or in the state legislature of New York?
When I tell you we've spent money and we've used some muscle, it's just a testament to how powerful one man can be in a state, which is crazy. I mean, is that democracy? No, it's not. It's a slap in the face to democracy that one man is the most powerful politician in an entire state where he can actually block progress, revenue, jobs, and the list goes on, and that's what Shelley Silver is doing here in the state of New York.
And how much money do
And
you
it's blatant. It's a blatant, like he doesn't he could care less. It's so blatant. And the things that are surrounding him right now, you know what I mean? Just show the power and the complete arrogance.
How much have you and the UFC put towards special interest groups to try to move this along legislatively?
Millions of dollars.
How many millions?
Too many millions. More millions than I should have spent. How about that?
You regret it? The amount that you've spent?
Do I regret it? It's part of the process. It's what you do. It's regrettable that this guy is that powerful, and like I said, like one guy can decide everything in a state. That he's more powerful than the governor. He's more powerful than he's the most powerful politician in the state of New York.
What do you do if he's around next year?
Yeah. Well, let me tell you this. I've been very nice to Shelley Silver. I've kept my mouth shut. I haven't said a word, about anything, and now I'm just at the point now where it's, and now that I'm talking, I'm sure we're not going to be here anytime sooner.
I don't need to tell you how close it's been. I mean, he is the guy that's blocking it.
Yeah.
Not even allowed to go to the floor.
Yeah, well, we've made all the votes to get to the floor, and he won't allow it to go to the floor.
Well, knowing how close, he's the one guy, but knowing how close it is, do you still, despite all him being the hurdle, remain positive or confident that it will come to New York eventually?
Yeah, when he's gone. When he's gone is probably when it will come to New York. Everybody knows it. All the media here in New York knows it. Everybody knows it. Does he care? He doesn't care.
So at this point,
Still
will you
keeps
try
that.
next year?
I don't think so.
How much?
I don't know. Maybe we will. That's up. You know what? There's a whole nother piece of the UFC that handles that. I don't care anymore.
Tim, how much would having an event in Madison Square Garden or one of the larger, let's say, the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, bring to UFC? Would a Manhattan UFC fight really up your revenue?
Well, it's not really about that. I mean, we've done and continue to do events in all the biggest venues in the world. We break records and ticket sales and all these other things. It's not about what it would do for us. We're going to continue to put on events whether we're in New York or not. But yeah, it should happen in New York. We should be in New York City. The fans here in New York are people all over the world that want to see it. Madison Square Garden for their business should be able to hold a UFC event. You can watch it on television here. You can drive right across the water and go to Jersey and watch it. And there's no reason it shouldn't be here.
One kink in the system is that there's online betting that makes it possible for people not to go to the actual venues to weigh in on certain fights. Do you think that's going to adversely affect revenue in Las Vegas?
What's the question?
That people can bet online on the outcome of certain fights.
People can bet online on football, baseball, basketball, cockroach races, and every other thing. I mean, you can bet on anything online. It's no different than any other sport. It wouldn't affect us one way or the other.
They'll still come to see
Yeah.
you live.
Yeah. Are you saying that people, because they could bet online, they wouldn't come see the fights live?
Not necessarily. I'm asking.
Sir,
Yeah.
that is the craziest question anybody could ever ask. That makes absolutely no sense. Edit that one. All right. Sure. Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Dana, can you talk about...
Hi.
Hi. Can you talk about the UFC's influence on martial arts and popular culture? Like the way stunts are being done in movies now, the way fight scenes are now, the things that UFC has out.
Yeah, the fact that the movies are all coming after UFC people, and yeah, it's funny, man. And Ariel asked me earlier, and the guy asked me here today. It's funny how, the sport continues to grow and all these great things that continue to happen, but it's funny because the people who are the closest to it, and the hardcores, are always screaming doom and gloom, like about the ratings and the ratings. When you're number one on all of television and all the demos that they actually care about, I don't understand how it's just so fucking weird to me to hear these kind of questions from the people who are the closest to it. And when you start to see, Hollywood and all these other mainstream, whether it's sponsors, Hollywood, or whoever else it might be, going after the athletes that are in the UFC, from Nike to now, Reebok and Under Armour and all these other guys that are interested now in getting into this business. And the fact that Fox is in a long-time deal, they continue to grow. They're launching a fucking network with the UFC that everything is negative and doom and gloom. It's like it's the weirdest.
Yeah.
The internet has so much control and power over media and what is it's fucking mind-boggling to me.
Dana, when you told that gentleman to edit that question out, it reminded me of the Sports Illustrated interview that you had. The final product, did you watch it, and did they take stuff out?
Oh, they took a ton of shit out. They fucking chopped that thing to fucking death.
How bad was it, the original?
It was bad. Yeah, it was bad. I made my peace with them, so, I think they get the point. They understood what I was saying. You shouldn't be talking about something that you have no idea what you're talking about. But yeah, they did a lot of edits to that piece.
Do you remember anything you said that they took out that was rather
Yeah,
inflammatory?
I remember lots of things, but like I said, I don't want to. I'm not out to hurt Sports Illustrated or the people that were on that panel. But what they did was their irresponsible journalism was hurting our sport, you know, and that's why I went after them the way that I did. Not one person on that panel watched the fight. Not one person on the panel knows anything about MMA, which is one of the things that she pointed out. Well, we're not mixed martial arts experts. Well, you're a sports reporter. And when you consider yourself a sports reporter, okay, they don't just cover MMA, they don't just cover baseball, they don't just cover football, they cover sports. You better know a little bit about every sport that you talk about. You don't have to be an expert on everything, but at least know the basics and the guy talking about, it's not as regulated as boxing. What? Are you seriously? You're on a Sports Illustrated panel? You don't belong on a Sports Illustrated panel. Whoever that guy was, they should all be embarrassed by that, and I think they were. And, like I said, I'm not going to say anything to disparage them or try to hurt them. I think they got the point.
But does it make the situation worse because they have reporters at Sports Illustrated who cover the sport?
How about they could have picked up the phone? How about they could have picked up the phone and said, "Oh, we're in the crunch here. We need to know about this fight," and they could have called any of their experts and got a fucking 2-minute download on what really happened and went on. And then she's trying to argue to me that, well, at the end we concluded that we thought it wasn't that the fight wasn't fixed. Yeah, with a ton of fucking shit that wasn't true, no facts whatsoever, and the shit that you did act like you did know was actually wrong. Well, it's not as,
Do you think that people can formulate opinions and just talk about fighting more than they can talk about other sports? Because fighting.
Yeah, well, the hard part is now it's like I love that you can have this one-on-one with the fans and social media and how fast information travels, but now it's like the fucking Wild Wild West. Anybody can jump in and start reporting and say whatever they want, and it's a little frustrating sometimes, but I'm used to it, man. I've been in this internet world now for 13 years, but it's a whole nother level when you're sitting there watching Sports Illustrated do it.
You counter that a lot? Counter questions about fight fixing? It seemed like at the beginning,
No.
people would compare
Never.
it to WWE, but this has been the first time in a while, right, that this has come up?
So let's talk about fight fixing. Let's really talk about what fight fixing means and what it would, and why you would do it, right? To fix a fight, what would be the purpose? Either you're going to bet money, somebody's going to lay down some money and you knew, and usually if you do something like that, the odds are huge. You got a guy who's 10, 12, 15, 30 to 1, right? And somebody would go make a bet or whatever. This is a huge business. We're not fucking betting on, you know what I mean? Why would we fix the fight? What would be the purpose of fixing an Anderson Silva fight? The guy's on the longest run ever. He's the greatest fighter. Okay, so let's play devil's advocate. Ooh, he loses. You got the biggest rematch ever and all this other shit. If it ever came out that you fixed a fight, it destroys all the fucking credibility and everything that you've built for the last 13 years. And no matter how much money you make on that second fight, now your business is ruined forever. And so is your credibility. It makes no fucking sense. It's the same thing when people say, they paid TJ Grant to fake an injury, or they did this or did that. Dude, I'm more upfront and honest with the media about everything that goes on than most of the fighters are. Most of the fighters don't want shit being put out into the open, the stuff that I put out into the open. We're a pretty open book here, and to even fight fixing is just the stupidest thing you could ever say.
For the record, I don't think that, obviously I think it's the most ludicrous thing in the world, but I think a lot of people thought Anderson could have fixed it because you know how that goes. You can bet against, you know what I mean?
You're going to bet against himself at 2 to 1?
Shitload of money, double it up.
Let me ask you a question, okay? And this is the truth. Floyd Mayweather always puts out these things about he bet $5 million on the basketball game. Where the fuck can you bet $5 million on a basketball game? You can't. Nobody's going to take action for $5. You know how gambling works? If somebody bets $5 million on one team, you need money on the other side to offset that bet. Casinos these days, with the economy the way that it is, they don't take bets like that. They don't take any risk. Casinos are in business for you to come to Vegas and get your ass whooped. That's what they're in the business of. They're not in the business of a $5 million bet one way and they can't get that money back or even get it close to, they'll take a haircut here and there, but not a $5 million haircut on one game. I don't care who the guy is. I don't care how big of a celebrity he is or how much money he has. Now let's talk about online gaming. Go try to make big bets online for one of these fights. I mean, what's the most you can bet? There's limits on what you can bet in Vegas on these fights. Where the hell is, and you don't think that if Anderson Silva or any of his people are gonna go lay money on himself, that's not gonna get out? Those fucking guys are backstabbing each other left and right every fucking 2 minutes, you know what I mean? You can't keep information like that quiet. It would never, ever be possible. I wanna not release a fight for a fucking week, and you can't stop it. It gets out. You hear it, or he hears it, or she hears it. I mean, somebody fucking ends up hearing it. Something like that would be out in a second. It's just so fucking ridiculous. It makes my brain hurt. It hurts my fucking brain, okay?
Frankie talked about being interested in fighting on that card. That's something you'd be interested in?
Yeah, it would never be a bad thing having Frankie fight in Jersey.
Do you know what's next for him?
I do. Yeah, I do.
What is it?
Right now.
Hey Dan,
We got something big for him.
Any update on Nick Diaz? There was some talks about him possibly coming back. Cesar Gracie, they have an opponent figured out.
Oh, they do? Is that what Nick said? I had a conversation with Nick a few weeks ago, and he, then all this stuff came out that we had talked about a fight, and it's not true. We don't. I'm actually waiting for a call back from Nick Diaz. Nick Diaz is supposed to be calling me back after our last conversation, and then we'll see what.
I think you might be interested in Robbie Lawler after that performance on Saturday.
Yeah, Robbie Lawler looked awesome, man. The new Robbie Lawler, more well-rounded, obviously a lot more grown up, and his head is in the right place.
Rory MacDonald, I mean, him and George keep saying that they're not going to fight each other. As Rory keeps winning and knocking off contenders,
Makes no sense, right?
It's sort of like he's blocking people's passes.
He's not. Those two will fight. Here's what they're not going to do. They're not going to publicly sit here and call each other out and then go up and see each other in the gym and face each other. They're both professionals. They understand that they're both on this, on this path to collide. And I think when the day comes, they'll deal with it then. I think that's the way they're looking at it. Now, weird it would be for, first of all, Rory lives in his house, meaning his gym, lives in Montreal, trains with him. George says all kinds of good things about him. How weird would it be after the fight the other night if he got on the mic and said, I want George St-Pierre and I want his belt? Be a little awkward flying back up to Montreal and training on Monday. I think these guys are handling it like professionals and doing their thing. And when the day comes, when they're there, I guarantee you they'll fight.
George keeps saying he has some alternate plan.
Yeah, this popped up today. I don't know about it. He told Ariel earlier. He hasn't told me yet.
Danny, the press tour is going to Cowboy Stadium in 2 days, George and Johnny. A, will you be there? And B, are you any closer to putting on a fight there?
We're not, we can put on a fight there whenever we're ready, whenever we think we've got the fight that could do it. We took this fight with Kane and Jr. down to Houston. And I think I am going to be there, yeah.
You're no closer to booking anything there.
We haven't booked anything yet.
Dana, after Rory beat Jake, it was very technical. He's a high-level guy. And I know you always want guys to put on great fights all the time. But there comes a point when these guys are at the top of the division. They're very technical in that particular fight.
Right.
Rory took some heat, but do you think it's somewhat unfair when you have two guys like that and they're really so technical, they're watching each other?
Well, I was the guy who gave most of the heat. I'm the guy who was, dishing it out. And my thing about that is you're going to be in a position where all the stuff that was talked leading up to that fight, where they sit in the rankings, they're on the biggest platform you can be on in front of the world watching, right? It was on free TV in the United States. It was on free TV in Canada. It was on free TV in South America. It was everywhere. And you go out and you put on a performance like that. Like I said, it's unfortunate fighters live in this business where they fight alone, there's no team, and you're only as good as your last fight. You don't want to put on performances like that. First of all, Jake Ellenberger didn't show up. That was fucking Jake Ellenberger's body showed up, and the rest of him did not. He threw 5 punches in the first 2 rounds, right? And then tried a little harder in the 3rd round to do something, okay? So if Rory feels, and he was telling Rory he didn't even belong in the top 10. All of his, all the stuff that he was getting was because of who he trains with. Rory should have made a statement. You don't have to be a fucking fight expert to know that Ellenberger was not there, okay? He wasn't there. He didn't show up at all. And Rory didn't capitalize on that.
Does it hurt his chances then when people talk about title fights? Is it too soon, even though he won the fight?
I don't think it hurts his chances. I'm hoping it was a learning experience for him. And I understand game plans and all that stuff, but in the big picture of things, listen, guys have no problem fucking calling my office and saying, I want to meet with you, and walking in and telling me why they deserve so much more money. Okay? Well, go fucking earn the money. Don't go out there. If we want to see a 3-jab fight, where guys go in and fucking jab, one guy doesn't fight, and the other guy just does enough to not lose, I'll watch fucking boxing.
On the subject of welterweights, last week over the weekend, you asked about Paul Daly. You said, he made it clear when he was leaving he didn't want to be back with the UFC. Ariel had him on the show on Monday, and he said he does want to be on.
You guys keep asking me this. Let me tell you what. If I brought Paul Daly back today, right, I signed him today, you guys would be standing in front of me going, hey, Paul Daly, he's got this problem and that problem and all these other things. And why'd you bring Paul Daly back? You'd be asking me the exact opposite question.
Maybe.
Yeah, definitely.
But you did bring him back, so I have to ask this.
Definitely. I'm not interested in Paul Daly.
Dana, you hear the fans going crazy right now. Can you just comment on why it was important to bring this tour to New York so these fans could see these champions?
Yeah, well, New York, if you look at, if you're going to do a world tour, you can't not go to New York. New York's, the media capital of the world. We got tons of fans here. And yeah, these guys I thought LA was crazy, man. These guys are definitely having fun. But it makes all the sense in the world. And like I said, I have this philosophy that everybody wants to watch great fights. You just got to know they're on. So we wanted to let everybody know how stacked the end of this year is.
Is Vitor and Chael a consideration?
I don't know. I heard about that today. First of all, Vitor's calling out Chael. Chael hasn't even fought yet. Chael's fighting Shogun, Vitor drives me crazy, man. Lorenzo can deal with Vitor, not me.
The question on flyweights, if it's already been asked, I apologize, but everyone likes to just jump on him and that kind of stuff. And what does it take for that to stop happening? What's it going to take? Is it just a matter of time?
The what?
Before everyone stops jumping on flyweights, saying, no, they're not fun, they're not, I don't want to watch them, they don't draw numbers.
It's the craziest thing ever. First of all, think about this. The number that they pulled the other night, right, is fucking unbelievable. Because we're lucky that everybody in America didn't turn their fucking TV off during the Ellenberger MacDonald fight, okay? We're lucky they didn't fucking switch over to watch the fucking Simpsons or something when that fight happened, all right? I'm not kidding you. People started leaving the arena. People started leaving the arena before the fucking main event. That's how bad Ellenberger and Rory were. I know you thought it was a technical masterpiece, but people actually got up and started to leave the arena. So the fact that fight led into their fight, and it grew. The ratings grew. The ratings didn't stay stagnant all night in this number. From the first fight all the way to the title fight, it grew throughout the night. We pulled, so last year at the same time, we pulled a 2.4, right? I think it was a 2.4. This one we pulled a 2.38. We were number one on all of television and all the key demos, right? And you have to understand, not 1 ounce of focus was on this show. It's all on Fox Sports 1. Money, energy, promotion time, everything is about Fox Sports 1 right now. That show killed it. And that fight was awesome, And the fact that he went for, you're either a fight fan or you're not a fight fan. You know what, I don't ever go, I don't like watching smaller guys fight. I like bigger guys. Well, I like medium guys. I don't like big guys or small guys. You're a fucking weirdo, okay? You're either a fight fan or you're not a fight fan. And if you're not, then don't fucking watch the small guys or the big guys or anybody. I don't know what to tell you. It's just the weirdest. People used to say it about the 155-pounders. We brought in the 155-pound division. They're like, this is terrible. These guys are too small. These guys could never carry a pay-per-view. And look at what the 55-pound division has become,
ratings grew, then what does it tell you about Jake and Rory?
If the rating's true,
Grew. You said they
it
grew.
did grow. It grew through the night.
Maybe I'm not the only one.
Yeah, I think we're fucking lucky is what I think. Yeah, I'm sure everybody was sitting home talking about what a technical masterpiece. Apparently, you didn't see all the stuff that was being talked about that fight.
Any update on Dominic Cruz?
He's hurt.
Still hurt. Still.
Yeah.
Dana, can you talk about the reception that Ronda Rousey has enjoyed in New York?
New York, LA, everywhere she goes. I mean, Ronda Rousey's a huge star, man. She's a huge star. It gets more and more apparent every day. Nobody gets more mainstream media coverage than she does. The fans go crazy over her, and yeah, she's huge.
She's over there talking about lobbying to try to get pro MMA legalized, and like her manner, her candor kind of reminds me of you. She just speaks right from the gut. She's dropping F-bombs. She's like, I'm glad that Dana White has called out Shelley Silver. We got to put it out on the table. Do you fear that at all, or do you love that about her?
I don't fear or love it. It is what it is. You know, Ronda is a smart woman. She speaks her mind. She has very little filter. You know, history has shown people with little filters get in trouble sometimes, you know, and I'm sure her day will come, but it is what it is. You know what I mean?
Can she possibly move the needle on the political logjam? I don't know. She's a woman. It's a woman's issue. It's more money. Can she move the needle at all, you think?
I mean, it doesn't hurt having, you know, smart, educated fighters like Ronda, Cain Velasquez, John Jones. You know, we got a lot of guys that are really smart guys, speak well, and are really, truly good people. You know, getting out there and talking about our efforts in whether it be New York or any other country in the world. Yeah, it's not a bad thing.
You've been kind of lukewarm about fighters doing movies while they're still fighting.
I haven't been lukewarm about it. I fucking hate it. You know,
Yeah, there you go.
I hate it.
I was
when,
trying to be politically correct.
Yeah, I
but
hear
hey.
you. I hate it when it interferes with what we're doing. Because no matter, I don't care what movie you're doing. I don't care if they're doing fucking E.T. 2. Okay, they make more money here than they make anywhere else. You know, and I know that the allure of movies and Hollywood is exciting and it's fun and it's you know, enticing. But this is where they make their money. And as long as we can work around what they're doing in the movies, I'm totally cool with it, and I welcome it.
So that's what's happening with Ronda? You're
Yeah.
around that.
See, the good thing, one of the many good things about Ronda is Ronda asks to do shit. You know, she's like, this is what's going on, this is what I'm thinking about, and we work it out. I mean, that's the way it should work when you're working with somebody, and so did GSP. You know, so it's great. It's not a problem at all when that happens.
Dana, today the Association of Boxing Commissions is looking at redefining a downed opponent, so where if you like voluntarily put your hand down to stop someone from kicking or kneeing you, we might be able to do that now.
I love that. That would be awesome. That needs to be done. That's a loophole that kind of slipped through the, you know.
Is there any other stuff like that you'd like to see them look at?
Yeah, obviously that one is a great one, and fixing referees and judges would be another good one.
You said you're not interested in Paul Daly. What about Lyman Good, former Bellator champ? Any interest in him?
Is he a free agent?
He's a free agent.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, that would be up to Silva. You know.
You said after Ellen Rory that sometimes the fights that a lot of shit talking end up sucking. Any fear of Rousey and Tate?
Yeah, people have been asking me that. I don't worry about that one. I think that's going to be a great fight. You know what I mean? But you never know. I mean, you never know what's going to... I just don't see either one of those two freezing the way that those two froze the other night. It's weird. You know, they get on the big... It's not like Ellenberger hasn't been in big fights before. He's been in big fights, like big fights that had huge impacts on his career. It's just one of those, you know, it happens sometimes. And as a fighter, especially a fighter at that level, you have to absolutely make sure that never happens to you. Ever.